Hey everybody. All right, welcome to lesson 13, day 2. Um, Still working on percents and proportional relationships. Again, really important topic because it's part of our daily lives, seriously. What we're going to focus on today is percent increase and decrease. And here are the two practices that we're working on, right? And pretty much we work on these all the time, but these are the two we'll work on, and I'd love it if you'd sort of focus on that throughout the lesson. How are we using these practices? All right, same as always. You need to hand your work in, all right? And I think you know the directions by now. And again, if your teacher has put a Google Doc in, go ahead and fill that out. All right. All right, so get something ready, prepare to do some work. All right, let's start with this little warm-up today. This is a little algebra warm-up. I love these, and several of you have done these before. This one, though, you have to remember the correct order of operations, right? If you don't remember that, just remember that little mnemonic device, PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, right? And then addition and subtraction. So make sure you're doing all your multiplication and division before you add and subtract. All right, so here's the goal. Figure out how much the red balloon is, green balloon is, blue balloon is, and then do the problem at the end. All right, please make sure you're writing this because I am going to expect to see the effort that you made here, and this will be part of what you hand in, so just title it warm up. Pause the video, figure this out, and when you're ready, turn the video back on. All right, here we are, everybody. All right, so how did you do? Let's take a look, first of all, at the answers. I got 10 as representing red, or red represents 10. The green balloons represent 2. The blue balloons represent 1. And then with the correct order of operations, you come up with 21. Right, so let's take a look first here at how I got the 10. Right, so there are 3 balloons here. Right? They total to make 30. So I just divided 30 by 3 and got 10. You can also just think to yourself, what plus what plus what gives you 30? 10 plus 10 plus 10. Then here, you know this is worth 10. Right, so these balloons altogether must be worth 8, because if you take 10 away from that, you've got 8. So you have a total of 4 balloons here. I did 8 divided by 4 and got 2. This is also equal to 4 because you've got 2 balloons, right? 4 minus 2 would give you 2, so each of these has to be 1. And then down here, remember your order of operations. You want to do 10 times 2 first, and then you add the 1. Right, so anyway, hope you enjoyed that. We'll do some algebra warm-ups again. All right, I'm trying to vary those a little bit. All right, here we go. On to the lesson. All right, so as I often do, I want you to read this problem to yourself while I read it out loud, and then I'll have you answer some questions for me. Okay, so Nassim scored 5 goals in his first soccer season and 8 goals in his second soccer season. What was the percent increase in the number of goals he scored? All right, so here's what you need to think about in this problem. I'm giving you just a little bit of information before you try to solve it. First of all, you need to figure out what the actual increase was. How many more goals did he score? Right? Once you have that, you want to figure out, all right, what is that compared to the original number of goals? So we're talking about the 5. So I want to know what percent the increase is of the original. All right? So your instructions are at the bottom. On your paper, I want you to answer the 3 questions from the top of the page. This is something you should get into the habit of doing anyway, so I'm asking you to write it down. Then I'd like you to try to solve it. All right? Pause the video while you're working on this. When you're ready, start the video up again. See you in a minute. All right, so I have a few ideas here, different ways to picture it, but one thing that you'll notice is I have put the answer, the actual answer, down at the bottom in red. Right, so if you got 60%, you did this correctly. I'd still like you to listen to the explanation. If you did not get 60%, just pay attention. We'll see if we can make it clear. So first thing, under the picture it, right here to the left, you can see there's a bar graph. Right, so it's clear that they have 3 squares at the bottom, 5 at the top. Well, where did that 3 come from? You got it. He scored 3 more goals in his second season than he did in his first season. So we're going to compare the 3 to the 5. I love the way the bar model shows this, and take a look at some of the numbers that they have here. The 5 goals is considered the whole, or the 100%. So the change is going to be here in X, so you should certainly be estimating, is that going to be greater than 100% or less than 100%? One thing I like here is they've split it up into units of 5. If this is 100% and each of these is worth 1/5 of 100, well, then how much is that? Well, each of these boxes must be worth 20. 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. Same here then. 20, 40, 60. Oh, all right. So this picture shows it quite well. Over here, we're going to take a look at that ratio that you talked about yesterday, or that you read about yesterday. You wrote about it in your reflect, or whenever you did this work. I keep saying yesterday because that's when I made the video. But to figure out the percent of change, you actually take the amount of change and divide it by the original amount. Well, in this case, that's 3/5, and they're making that equivalent to something over 100. Right? I'm hoping that you're looking at the connection between these two representations. Right? You know, 5 times 20 gives you 100. Oh, yeah, right. Each of these was worth 20, right? 20 5 times. Right? So then 3 times 20? 60. 60 over 100, 60%. Right? Here's another thought I have, and this is the way I consider to be the most efficient when working with percents and fractions. I just looked at this fraction, and I'm like, how do I make that into a decimal again? Oh, yeah, 3 divided by 5. I used a calculator to do that, but certainly you should be able to do that by hand as well. Right, that gave me 6/10. That also makes sense if you're looking at this. If you made this into an equivalent fraction, 6/10. Right, and that's the same as 60%. Why? Because this would be 60 hundredths. Oh, 60 hundredths, 60%. One strategy that we often use is to take a decimal and move the decimal point 2 places to the right to figure out the percent. That's because it's hundredths, and hundredths is 2 places to the right. So if I'm looking at this decimal and I were to move the decimal point 2 places to the right, that would give me 60. I'd have to add the 0. But notice it is 60%. All right, I hope that helps you. All right, let's move along. All right, the next thing I'd like you to do is on your paper, number 2 through 8, and I'd like you to answer these questions. All right, this comes from your instructional booklet. Really, you can rewind the video. If you rewind the video, it will definitely help you with questions 2 through 6. Take your time on these. When you have finished and you've really given it some good thought, right, then you can turn the video back on. All right, so pause the video, work on these, take your time, do a good job. When you're ready, turn it back on and we'll go over it. All right, we'll see you in a few minutes. All right, so I'm back. All right, one thing I'm going to want you to do as we go over the answers is circle anything that did not make sense to you. I'm not going to actually go over any of these 2 through 6. I'd like you to look at those yourself and make sure that your answers match what the teacher's text said here. But I would like to take a look at 7 and 8. All right, now I'm going to be reading them off a larger monitor. That's why I'm going to appear to be looking away. But I'm still wanting you to pay attention here. All right, here we go. All right, so it says Amelia's mom baked 48 cookies. After Amelia and her friends walk through the kitchen, there are 18 cookies left. What is the percent decrease in the number of cookies? All right, well, we're going to go use the formula that I had on the previous page, and that is you take the amount of change and you divide it by the original amount. Okay, so first thing I did is say, well, how many cookies did she and her friends eat? Well, they must have eaten 30 cookies because there was only 18 left. That's a lot of cookies. All right, so the percent decrease would be 30 divided by 48. And again, I used my calculator to do this. I got 0.625, right? And remember what I just talked about, moving the decimal point 2 places to the right? That's a 62.5% decrease in the number of cookies. All right, let's look at number 7 real quick. All right, it says here, the first month, Tan had his new phone. He downloaded 5 apps on it. 6 months later, he has 22 apps on his phone. Well, that makes sense, right? What is the percent increase in the number of apps Tan has on his phone? Right, so one thing you have to pay attention to is what was the original number. Okay, always comparing to the original when we're looking for the increase or decrease. So that is 5. Okay. Next thing I did, besides thinking about, okay, 5 is the original, is figure out how many apps did he add. Well, he added 17. Right, so there's a few ways you can figure that out. I opted to do 22 minus 5. You could also think, all right, he had 5. Right? How did he get up to 22? How many would I need to add? Oh, 17. And then the next thing is 17 divided by 5, which gave me 3.4. And again, I'm moving the decimal point 2 places to the right. That's a 340% increase. Remember we talked about how a 200% increase is the same as doubling? Well, a 300% increase is the same as tripling. If you kind of think about that, that helps a little bit because he has 3.4 times as many apps. So that's got to be larger than a 300% increase. All right, circle anything you had trouble with. All right, and the next slide's going to explain, yeah, you need to hand this in. All right, here we go. All right, so here are the instructions for handing it in. Again, some of your teachers have created some Google Docs for you to fill out. So if that's the case, go ahead and fill that out and hand it in. And thank you for participating. All right, we'll see you for lesson 3.